Hello, my name is Jacob Kidwell. I'm an ADN nurse studying for my BSN. For my community health project, I went ahead and selected the topic of obesity as well as understanding BMI and healthy life habits. I'm going to go ahead and do this presentation through Zoom with an associated PowerPoint slides and then a few questions here at the end. Starting off, again, the title is Healthy Choices, Healthy Life. My big part starting off was understanding the BMI. So according to the CDC, the BMI is interpreted as a person's weight in kilograms divided by the square height in meters. Now, kind of starting off with that too, given the fact that it's just a rough formula of weight and height, it's not exactly specific for every person. There are multiple tests to indicate a more accurate assessment as far as your true fat to muscle to overall weight score. However, waist size along with BMI can be accurate indicators as far as an individual's risk for other negative health associated effects as far as obesity. Now, the BMI in and of itself is broken down into multiple categories. You have as far as underweight, normal to healthy, overweight, and obese. The categories as far as those were concerned, below 18.5 is considered underweight for BMI. 18.5 to 24.9 is normal weight or healthy weight. 24.9 to 30, 25 to 29.9 is overweight, and then 30 and above is obese. So, and this is also where you have to kind of take into consideration, it's more of a tool, not necessarily a hard guideline. The fact that it also changes for children. So children, anything above the 95th percentile as they're tracked by age and gender is considered obesity. Typically when you go see your primary care for your children, they place you percentiles. And again, they're not based off of the 18.5 to the 24.9. They're more in the percentile rank. An example would be an individual that weighed 150 pounds, was 5 foot 5 inches, would have the BMI of 24.96. And again, that would fall at the upper end of the healthy range. Now, and some of the side notes for that too, like I said, you might have athletes who have lean muscle with a higher weight, which would not necessarily, let's say they were 5'9", 190, or 5'9", yeah, like 210 pounds. That would definitely put someone in the category of overweight to obese. However, given the understanding that their actual body composition is that of a healthy individual, you know, being healthcare providers, these are something that we obviously take into consideration, and we don't just blindly follow the body mass indexes as far as that was concerned. And actually, we had it here too. So 5'9" individual, 124 pounds or less was underweight. 125 to 168 was considered average healthy weight. 169 to 202 was overweight, and 203 pounds or more was considered obese. So again, being 5'10" myself, and actually being in that category, I like to think of myself as a pretty healthy individual. Unfortunately, too, it is just kind of a rough tool, and given the circumstances that, you know, individuals who are healthy, lean mass or leaner mass compared to individuals with lower muscle density will have the disproportionate ratios of BMI. So actually from the Centers for Disease Control as well, some health consequences associated with the higher BMI categories as well as the higher waist sizes due to like more centralized obesity, were that of increased cause of death across all categories, high blood pressure, hypertension, high cholesterol. Is also, they wanted to specify it was the low HDLs, high LDLs. Again, you want obviously your LDLs to be the lower and HDLs to be the higher, as well as high triglycerides. Type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes being one of the primary associated conditions with obesity. Coronary artery disease, stroke, coronary heart disease due to the hemodynamic changes as far as the occlusion of the blood vessels due to the fatty deposits inside them over time can go ahead and either partially or fully occlude. You have situations where you have hypoxic tissue. So again, starts sometimes with a heart, you think of heart attacks. Now stroke also at risk due to little deposits as well. Osteoarthritis, the general wear and tear on all of your joints, your bones, all of that, due to the increased weight and the strain, can have a cumulative effect on your joints. Sleep apnea, breathing problems. One thing I know we see all the time in the hospital, especially, you worry about patients who are heavier coming out of anesthesia, going in anesthesia, operations, anything respiratory-wise. That added weight on top of the diaphragm can have really make force feed problems, especially if you're laying flat on their back. Cancers, endometrial, breast, colon, kidney, gallbladder, and liver. Anytime really you have the increase in stores of fat on some of the vital organs, that can really put individuals at increased risk for developing cancers, mental illness, depression, anxiety, and mental disorders. So that goes back more towards like the sociocultural norms, and as far as like kind of our, not necessarily even just kind of built-in stigmas associated with conditions like that. Everyone obviously wants to thrive and be an active member of society. Sometimes, our self-image, stuff like that can get it, well, from how we think others view us due to self-image, self-value, all that unfortunately is also associated with sometimes physical appearance, which when we obviously associate categories as far as obese or that was concerned, those can start to have a detrimental effect on one's self-image, one's confidence, and leading to situations again with depression or the anxiety. Body pain, difficulty functioning. Yeah, especially this goes back to, the osteoarthritis, everything as far as that's concerned. You start to have the joint wear and tear, which is kind of a cumulative effect. One joint, then you start to favor the other. That side goes. Next thing you know, it's kind of like that snowball rolling downhill, unfortunately, and this trying to get back in shape too. The exercise is compounded by the fact that you have the multiple joint issues. You are heavier weight, you have a lower exercise tolerance. There's a lot of kind of multiple factors playing into sometimes these individuals, even just daily lifestyle of trying to get back in shape or just even go through the normal ADLs. So kind of understanding the BMI, understanding a little bit about it. Again, it's just a tool we use. It is not a hard, if you're above this certain percent of BMI, 30%, you're obese. There is the give and take of situational independence as far as individuals' lifestyle, composition, but it is a rough tool when you have a few different combinations. And again, kind of the associated health factors is obviously the increase in weight, increase in disproportion from lean mass into healthy tissue, or from healthy lean tissue up into fatty tissue. You start to have the associated negative health effects. Some health tips, starting out actually with sleep, something not always easy to come by, and these are from the National Sleep Foundation. I kind of did a breakdown by age. So it was newborns 0 to 3 months, it was the 14 to 17 hours. Sounds nice. Infants 4 to 11 months was the 12 to 15 hours. And we're going to see as we kind of go down through this, you start out with the infants requiring massive amounts of sleep, the highest growth when you think of the 0 to 1 year, they almost triple in weight. Obviously, it doesn't continue throughout our entire lifespan. So due to the rapid growth, they require the large amounts of sleep to make sure their bodies are fueling back up. So infants 4 to 11 months, 12 to 15 hours, still pretty impressive. 1 to 2 years, 11 to 14. Preschool, 3 to 5, they have the 10 to 13 hours. School age, ages 6 to 13, they're 9 to 11 hours. Teenagers, 14 to 17, 8 to 10 hours. And at that point where you start to hit really even school-aged and teenager, when you're seeing the 9 to 11 or the 8 to 10, that's going to transition you. They're almost at the recommended adult sleeping hours, which was the 7 to 9 hours from young adults through adulthood. It remains 7 to 9, and then older adults, 65 plus, is the 7 to 8. There is the studied and marked reduction as far as your need for sleep for older individuals. It's kind of a pattern changes, but typically as well. Now it's only a kind of a marked difference of an hour here as far as the recommendation, but there is older individuals that reported, multiple times that just, they do receive less sleep, still feel as rested as individuals requiring typically 7 to 8. All right. So I wanted to go into exercise as well. Sleeping, obviously, when you think eating, sleeping, and exercise are kind of the healthy tips. They're going to be associated with maintaining that healthy weight, healthy lifestyle. having understand what is the healthy weight, talking about the healthy sleep. Now we're going into the exercise portion, and these actually were recommended by the Mayo Clinic. So when they talk about anaerobic activity, aerobic, and then they have strength training separate as the anaerobic. Quick explanation again, aerobic, anything you're able to do, maintain that positive oxygen balance. So if you're out of breath, if you're gasping, you start to build up that lactic acid, you're going into more of the anaerobic as opposed to the aerobic. You're able to maintain the positive balance, and as far as that's concerned, your oxygen expenditure is not greater than your intake, and so you're able to go ahead. It's kind of those, think of the activities you're able to, so if you say for running, for example, you're able to run at that slow enough pace, you can maintain a sentence while you're talking. Exercises, you're taking breaks in between. You might still be sweating, you're still having physical exercise, but it's not to such a degree that you cannot sustain it for long periods of time. So they're saying aerobic activity, at least 150 minutes of moderate aerobic activity or 75 minutes of vigorous aerobic activity a week. And so they do recommend a combination of both. So when we go into the dietary here in a little bit, we talk about the differentiation as far as the variance and stuff like that. The big thing is your bodies are great at adapting, and you want to make sure you're going ahead and you're varying up your patterns. By doing so, you're going to go ahead, see better growth, better kind of results. Unfortunately, you do tend to plateau when you go ahead and you stay to the same routine day in and day out. Although there are benefits over, as opposed to doing nothing, you'd see the higher benefits associated with even, longer workout one day, shorter workout the other, higher intensity, lower intensity. That variance keeps the body kind of from getting kind of stale and stagnating. And it says the guidelines suggest you spread out the exercise during the week. Great amounts of exercise provide greater health. So again, you have 150 minutes of moderate aerobic and 75 vigorous. So the idea is not to get it all done in one day, and then one day out of the week you're super active, 6 days out of the week you're not. That's still not a healthy ratio. The same way we're trying to split up between the vigorous and moderate activities, the same way we're trying to split up between the your exercise active lifestyle and your non-active, depending on whatever job be it as it may. Not everyone can have physically demanding jobs. Some do require kind of stationary activities, and those are when you want to make sure you're definitely balancing in your physical health. So strength training is also recommended. This will help offset some of the osteo-related issues. Anytime you're using strength, weight greater than that of your body, it helps build up the muscle as well as the bones. So strength training, do these training exercises for all major muscle groups at least 2 times a week. And then it's saying, so aim for a single muscle set of 12 to 15 repetitions. So, okay, that one might be a little bit more daunting for some individuals, but when you do consider the fact that if you do more of a compound exercises, stuff like that, not isometric, you're able to hit multiple muscle groups in the same time for with a short duration as well. So while it sounds all major muscle groups at least 2 times a week, that can be accomplished relatively simply. And that would go more into like the vigorous aerobic exercises as well, depending, although it does trend towards anaerobic. But you're able to do that at a very reasonable thing. It's within moderation. All these are taken into consideration that everyone's lifestyle and time allocations are not the same. So they are able to go ahead and be followed on, for the most part, typical basis. So the next actually health tips I got were from myplate.gov. It was from the Department of Agriculture. And so these were kind of more generalized tips. We want to talk about maximize nutrient-packed foods. So the one big thing you want to be aware of and be kind of on the lookout for is calories, not just calories. You have the calorie-dense, nutrient-poor. You might have nutrient-high, calorie-poor. There's multiple options. The big thing is everything you're eating, well, yes, they do have a caloric intake, caloric value. You want to make sure that those are kind of the things that are benefiting you. They're not empty calories that your body essentially is just taking on for the sake of calories that end up being stored as fat. The big thing, energize with grains. I know there's a lot of topic lately as far as carbohydrates, the things of those concern. Carbs in and of themselves are not bad when taken in the right moderation, when you're used for energy. Your body uses both fats and carbohydrates for energy and requires both. It's just making sure you're having adequate amounts of each and not excessive. So the grains are a great source of complex carbohydrates, great source of energy, something to definitely include in a healthy diet. And again, just follow up with that, making sure they're being taken in moderation. Power up with protein. So the big thing too, I know there's the keto diets, there's stuff like that. Ketosis in and of itself, the breakdown of the muscle for fuel. Obviously, anytime we're using muscles, we want to be replenishing them, not necessarily tearing them down. Some processes, while great for weight loss, are not necessarily great for sustaining healthy diets, healthy lifestyles. Making sure you're having a nice balance of your protein intake is important. And the other secondary part to that is mixing up plant with animal proteins. The differentiation between the two allows you for more of a kind of complete coverage in your diet. You don't want to, go out every day and say, I eat a steak every night for dinner and I'm getting my, protein from that. While you are getting protein, the differentiation, again, it's different exercises, varying your diet while still meeting the recommendations. The variance will go ahead and allow you for more of a coverage. You might have unique properties that the plant versus the food doesn't have, and the same vice versa for the food versus plant. And going ahead and having both of these, giving you kind of the best of both worlds, and you're having a healthy all-around meal as opposed to semi-healthy but lacking in some areas. So varying with fruits and vegetables, this is also important too. I'm probably a little guilty of this. I do love, blueberries, stuff like that. I love everything, but there are quite, anyone's going to the store, numerous amounts of fruits, vegetables, anything to pick from. And, really going out, you can have your favorites. I mean, I personally love spinach, but going outside your comfort zone every now and again, going out, trying something new once a week, trying things like that, getting those new sources of fruit and vegetables in your diet will help. Be mindful as well of the sugars associated. So, a lot of things now, you have the drinks that are made with 2 servings of fruit, 2 servings this, 2 servings that. It's great. Keep in mind the sugar content of stuff as far as that's concerned. While most individuals are health conscious enough to understand the sodas carry the high sugar content, and whether we choose to drink them or not is kind of a personal choice. A lot of the fruit drinks, which are kind of being marketed as the healthier options due to the fact they are from with the natural sugars from fruit, they still have that high sugar concentration, which, added on top of the regular diet, which might have its, you have the other fruits, you have your other whatever have you that have the other sugar as well, leads you to that kind of unhealthy over intake for your dietary allowances. So don't forget dairy, that's important as well. Now, not necessarily saying load up on the cheese, but your healthy dairy has a lot of probiotics, has a lot of benefits. The calcium, your bones, your probiotic, all that dietary has a lot of benefits for your body. Balance your meals. So same things, I guess. I mean, this again seems sort of obvious, but you have a certain proportion of meat, protein, your fruits and vegetables, your all that per day, as well as your grains. Try to make sure you're getting the varying amounts in each meal. Again, having that complete meal provides your body with necessary fuel throughout the day. You don't want to go through periods where I haven't had, protein in 24 hours. I haven't had this in 24 hours. Having the bits and pieces opposed to just block meals. Kind of like the binge eating, but as far as don't binge eat your vegetables, don't binge eat your proteins. Make sure you're breaking them up, eating them for every meal, eating the right amounts. Drink water. Water is super important. I mean, literally, we are majority water in our cells. You want to talk about that? Intracellular, extracellular. But as far as that's concerned, one health tip really big was actually drink water before your meal. Drink a glass of water. That not only helps you cut down on overeating, but it has been shown to actually decrease decrease weight, but improve the dietary success, improve weight loss drastically. The water, all of our cellular processes need water. We make sure we're staying hydrated. Dehydration is bad in almost every aspect. Everything we can do to prevent that, everything, as simple as just, drinking water here and there, making sure if we can't remember the last time we drank water, it's probably go ahead. It's a good rule of thumb. If you can't remember, you probably need to go ahead and drink one. Know how much you eat. That's important as well. Portioning, even, Everything within moderation, obviously, is a pretty popular saying, but everything you eat, despite the qualities associated with it, despite the benefits of it, you can still overeat on healthy items. The idea is, you don't need to be stuffed at every meal. You need to have healthy portions. Drink that glass of water before. Keep an idea of what you used to eat, that you're eating now. Kind of compare. There's a lot of things you can do to be mindful of that. And the big thing is just make sure that you really proper portions, eating the right types of foods, varying what you eat, making sure you're getting all your nutrients in. It's not necessarily difficult, but it is something that takes some conscious thought. And that's going to be a big part too, is, you're keeping track of this. It is a goal. Health doesn't just necessarily come to anybody. It's not something that you can just ignore and it's going to happen on its own. It does require some effort. So MyPlate, actually, again, by the Department of Agriculture, is an online tool. There's some really neat aspects of it. They have the calculator. So I know, for instance, when I went on there, put in my height, weight, put in my age, my level of activity, it gives you recommended dietary intakes as far as if you wanted to maintain, if you wanted to lose. There's actually the food calculator on there as well. I know it was kind of fun for meal planning. You could go in and say, if I had beans, if I had this, or white rice, if I had boiled chicken breast, so big, all that, and it gives you the caloric breakdown as well as your micro nutrients as far as that's concerned. It was a really neat tool, and that's one of the things too. Maybe even before you go to the store, stuff like that, go on there, type in some things you're thinking about buying, and you can really see the cost. I say cost, but your reward kind of negative ratio as far as, okay, I want to eat this. What are the associated benefits of that? If I do eat this, what is that going to look like the rest of my day, maybe, for my food? It's just something that, by no means does a healthy diet not include the occasional treats, does not include the occasional rest days, does not include that. Those are very much required to maintain healthy, holistic approach to life. But the big thing is making sure that we are kind of conscious, we understand what we're putting in our bodies, and we do understand that it's not kind of just blindly going about things, that it does take some effort. And part of that as well, they actually have a what's cooking recipes on there for MyPlate. It's really nice. They go ahead, they give you some tips, tools. They have a list of recipes on there specifically that are designed, with health conscious individuals in mind. And they can actually vary too, depending on what your goals are, what your kind of starting point is, what you like to eat already. It has a lot of customization that the individual can go on there and really make a kind of a meal plan for themselves that fits themselves best. And that's the big thing. It's not going to be the one size fits all. And the MyPlate, any family size, anything like that, they really cater to almost anybody. And that's the nice part about it. And then it says, again, they're talking about the nutrient-rich options, and it talks about the vegetables, fruit, whole grains, lean proteins, fat-free, low-fat dairy. It's just going to be important we make sure we utilize all those in our meals and make sure, again, we are, practicing rest, exercise, meals. The big thing, you want your your exercise can complement your daily routine, making sure you sleep enough to repair those muscles you're using, and making sure you're eating right so you can fuel your body for when you're doing that exercise and you're doing your work as well. I hope this has been a little educational, and I hope here at the end, let's see, my questions, starting off, what is a healthy BMI? So going back, if you want to think about as far as the recommended by the CDC we found out there, the breakdowns between underweight, normal to healthy, overweight, and obese, what specifically were those ranges for the healthy weight? What are some healthy eating tips? So anything from any of MyPlate tips, as far as just kind of general as well. What's a good amount of sleep per night, recommended by the National Sleep Foundation? And then I would go also for that, I was going to say specifically pertaining to adults, how much exercise is recommended per week for an adult? And for that, you can either say the number of strength recommended activities they said, and or the moderate or the vigorous. And then what is MyPlate kind of, that was one of the things I wanted to go ahead and see what everyone's understanding was of it, making sure we're all kind of on the same page, that it is the tool that you're able to go ahead and use, and that we understand, what are some of the benefits associated with it. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this.